All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So Mr. Kitlitz is off the hot seat and we bring Mr. Beck in to see how he does. Good morning, Mr. Beck.
Good morning.
You don't have any backup. At least Clayton had Pat in the background.
Mr. Mayor, I back.
Oh, there we go.
Now you're in trouble. The big guns.
Who's gonna win the Oilers Flames game tonight? Any bets?
Well, it's obvious.
Moving on.
Mayor. It's obvious.
All right, Ms. Bittner, go ahead.
Right, so moving on to community and protective services. First up, we have policing. This is where you can see it talks about the extra additional costs for the wage increase being covered from the capital sharing, as mentioned earlier. And this is just the increase going forward. This isn't the retroactive costs that are being discussed. They will we'll bring those back to council if they ever come through. So.
Yeah, so if I can just speak to that. So at this time, just to remind council that the federal government has not invoiced us as per the contract. Once they send an invoice, we have 90 days to pay. They heard from municipalities and so they have not invoiced, which was actually quite surprising. I've been on a couple calls. There have been no definitive answers on this, but AUMA, FCM, the Alberta government, all municipalities have been making lots of noise about this. So hopefully the federal government will come to the table with some reasonable plan forward in order to alleviate this. I guess my question to administration is, have any discussions happened internally on how to deal with this if, for say, tomorrow we get an invoice from the feds for, I think it's $500,000.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have had some discussions over the months, knowing this was coming and not knowing exactly when. I really feel our only option would be to look at our RSA reserve for that amount of money. So I believe it's between $500,000 to $600,000. So that would either be a 5 or 6% tax increase, or we look towards our reserves.
All right, thank you.
Moving on from policing to fire. There was no real change from 2022 to 2023 for fire. And same for the disaster area. This is where we fund our disaster exercises. 911, it's we cost share with the county, the other way around. We cost share with them, rather than the other way around. Really, there was a capital item last year that's been removed, so really no change there. Moving on to bylaw. One thing of note is obviously under that revenue, you'll see the removal of the business license budgeted amount from bylaw. We've moved that over to economic development, as we saw earlier, and adjusted the rate. Apart from that, no real change for community enforcement either. Moving on to parks. Over on the additional requests column there, you see the 11,000 requests we saw earlier for a casual to help with outdoor rinks in the winter time primarily. And under contracted services, proposed parks asset life cycle study, so we can actually get sort of know where our parks assets are sitting as far as where they are in their life cycle for 50,000. And also a fees review. This will be shared with our leisure centre as well. The parks portion of that being 12.5. And if you look down, you see proposing both those projects be funded from the RSA reserve. One of these one-off projects where we can use those reserves to help us fund those.
Councillor Barr.
Thanks. Through the chair to Ms. Bittner, what exactly is the proposed funding for parks fee review? Is that like for vision parks or like soccer fields, or what does that mean?
I might hand it over.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, through council, User fee review, this would be a comprehensive look at user fees for all our recreation services. And also some of how our practices and policies would compare with best practice in other places. And we propose to use a bit of an outside resource to help us with this, just to make sure we're getting the best and brightest advice on what user fees, what they look like elsewhere and how we compare. And then maybe even hold some workshops with user groups in town. We know that this has happened in the past, and it's we propose to do this comprehensively for all the groups, including everyone who uses the leisure center, but even our outside places, ball diamonds, soccer, every amenity that we have. So we'd like to do that in 2023. And just to be clear, we split the budget between leisure center. About 75% we thought was about leisure center related, and the last 25% was non-leisure center related, and the 75% is cost shared with Yellowhead County.
Councillor Bennett.
So on this proposed parks fees and that through the mayor, that 12,500, we'll build a new multiplex. Is that going to be increased in that, or are you going to be including that in the multiplex going forward, looking at other places in that?
Mr. Mayor, through the council, I think that information will help us moving forward into the new multiplex. Just establishing where the fees should be. Should the new facility require tune-up to that fee review, we can look at it then. But I think it's even, let's look at it today to see where we're at, and it could guide us into the future.
Sure, thank you.
Else? Okay.
On to cemetery. And no real change overall for cemetery from 22 to 23.
Councillor Fire.
Yeah, so through the chair to Ms. Bittner, sorry, one more question just on the previous parks budget for the 11,000 outdoor rink clearing. Is that just for Griffiths Park and Gunwood Park, or does that include the other ones that are in the neighborhoods?
I believe it's for the Griffiths Park and Glenwood Park, if I am not mistaken.
Yeah, Mayor, through the council, yes, it's not really clearing, it's just some casual to get them flooded before if our staff are busy clearing trails, sidewalks, etc., and we've got a window of opportunity where it's cold enough to get them flooded really quick, bring in some casuals, get them flooded so that they can get started. After that, our park staff believe they could probably clear them and maintain them. It's just that time and attention to get them flooded the first time when the opportunity permits, but you're too busy clearing trails. So we thought maybe we would just try casuals to start with.
Thanks for that question, Councillor Meyer, which reminds me, last year we did not do the skating oval at Water Tower Park based on the situation we were in. Is that looking to be happening this year if conditions permit with this casual help?
Mr. Mayor, through the council, we haven't included that as a service level increase, and what we interpreted that was it was really the use of resources for the operators that were currently at the leisure center, that they had plenty of time to spend working on an additional facility because that center was closed. So we have not built that into this year's budget.
Okay, just further comments on that. I know it was very well received by the community for those that just wanted to casually skate, because the rinks are often busy with hockey and other sporting activities. So I will be making a motion on that in section E. So moving on.
Moving on to building maintenance. And over the additional budget requests, we have a proposed increase for consulting and engineering services to help with our building maintenance of 20,000, but also a proposal for a building life cycle report, so we can actually find out where our building assets are sitting. If you remember back from the AMP from 2018, buildings were quite one of the big concerns. So Again, for that $200,000 study report, proposed funding from the RSA reserve for that, so there'll be no impact on taxation for that report.
Councillor Sharp.
Just one question through to the mayor and who can answer it. Where we have for building maintenance personnel, is there select individuals or is that just an estimate? Because I know town staff does building maintenance, so the 348 that's going up to 362, is that 2 or 3 people or is that just?
Through
Taken from
the
other
chair to
staff.
Councillor Chouinard, we do have dedicated building maintenance staff, and that
Okay.
is 3 people plus some portions of managerial salaries in there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Public health, this is where we look after the medical centre and the doctor's house. We're talking about earlier. So you can see the very first line there, the removal of that revenue as we discussed earlier. And down on the additional budgets, down the bottom there, transfer to reserves. This is the 5% from the reserve policy that has been brought forward for council's review. At this time for this presentation, using it to offset the medical centre rent. This is just a suggestion. It's entirely up to council where it would offset or if it goes forward at all. And at the moment proposing to start building up our building maintenance reserve, but again, that is also at council's discretion as to where that money may go. This just pops it into the taxation so we can have that discussion for that. Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Meyer.
Thanks, through the chair to Ms. Bittner. I think, thank you for adding some money into the building maintenance operational budget. It's needed, right? I mean, we can just choose to build new buildings or we can try to maintain what we have. And I'm a firm believer in the latter. Is 60,000, like, is that enough?
Through the chair, this is just in line with the policy. So the reserve policy that was passed said that each year, I'm paraphrasing, but each year in the budgeting cycle, administration would bring forward 0.5% to help to start to offset some of those revenues that are a little volatile. So this one offsets the 220 revenue from the medical centre. So it's just a sort of part of that reserve policy, bringing it forward for your review.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right.
On GFCSS, really very, very little change from 2020. Public transportation, this is the area where we fund the seniors transportation bus, as few as a few other non-profits that have transportation needs as well, and no change. Our community services admin, there is a proposal within the grants to individuals or organisations, this line here, it doesn't have a budgetary impact, but there is a proposal to join the Elder Abuse Network for around a $10,000 grant for us to join that. So we're kind of moving it from other grants to this grant. And may also notice this $40,000 here is we had a pilot program for the Leisure Assist program. That is coming back to you on Tuesday for review. And anything that may come out of that, we can bring back for in our next budget meeting for any adjustments. Over on the additional side, looking at the additional personnel that we mentioned earlier, as well as putting $30,000 towards what we've called Connected Communities initiatives as part of the strategic plan, including things such as the Truth and Reconciliation, etc. And you see down the bottom, also proposing to fund that from our RSA reserve. Any questions on? Moving on to community development, our programming sits for community services. Yeah, not really a lot of change here. In 2022, they were a little conservative with some of the items, just thinking if COVID might continue through. So this is now returning everything back to the pre-COVID levels.
Questions?
To Griffiths Park complex. There's a lot of figures in here and moving around, but really it's just assessing what would be spent in 2022 and adjusting the budget for 2023 accordingly.
Councillor Byron.
Thanks, through the chair to Ms. Bittner. Do we know when the Griffiths Park might be open? Is there any more recent details from since September?
Mr. Mayor, through the council, we will be starting a lottery if you want. No, we actually closed a tender yesterday on one of the key parts, and that was the HVAC system. And so unfortunately, it's seeing inflation as well, but we think we can keep it within budget. Certainly, we're still targeting for in the springtime.
Any questions? Moving on.
Next up, we have the leisure centre. So I will touch on a little bit under base budget here because it looks a little bit like there's a lot going on there. Looking down towards the bottom here, you'll see we did have a transfer to reserve of $100,000. This was implemented a few years ago when the multiplex was going to be situated up in Hillendale, and that facility was no longer going to be required. So we had started moving some of the operational expenses sort of down, and the difference we had put into a reserve towards an operating reserve for the new facility. Things change. So now with that facility now maybe going into the future, we've removed that reserve transfer and just reallocated that $100,000 back into the operational side of the facility, just to aid with bringing some of those the things that may have been removed back into budget and the need for that facility to continue on. On the additional side, this is the other portion of the Parks Fees Review and Best Practice Review that we spoke about in Parks, with Yellowhead County's portion above being shown and our portion being coming from the RSA reserve to cover that project. Any questions?
Councillor Byron.
Thanks. Through the chair to Ms. Bittner. So a few budgets ago, we added the 100,000 to allocate towards the new multiplex, perhaps additional operating expenses so we could maybe not have, a huge tax increase that year or something. So now that's just going back into the current operational budget. Is there a need or desire or thought that maybe we should increase that amount?
Mr. Beck.
Yeah, I'm happy to try to answer that one, Mr. Mayor, through the council. Basically, the entire 100,000 will be for minor and major maintenance that have been deferred in the past. And we're in a bit of a tough situation, as council will know, is wisely they deferred some maintenance, assuming we'd be in the ground and building, and we would know the opening of the new multiplex. Why would you want to invest a whole bunch in the old place? Now that we know we're probably a couple of years away from opening a portion of the new thing, some of those deferred maintenance things are coming home to roost, and we have to address them. We're doing some right now. We're doing roof repairs. We just let the contract right now. And as council's aware, we employed a whole bunch of engineers and architects to review the current leisure center in the last 120 days, and they've suggested a number of things that we need to do. So a lot of this is really devoted to that maintenance amount. And I think as we get more information, we'll probably have to come back and meet council on that. if it requires a change to the way that we're funding it in the future, we'd certainly make a recommendation.
And we also have the reserve funds that we were setting aside, because we did believe that we'd have to operate 2 facilities for a portion of time, which now looks like we may not have to do that. So I think we do have a little bit of buffer or a rainy day fund there if we need to do a major investment in the existing structure outside of whatever gets proposed as the multiplex committee meets.
So our last departmental slide is the culture, which is where we fund the museum and the library. And again, there's really just the increases that came forward from the museum and library for the 2023 budget. So next.
Councillor Byron.
Thanks, through the chair to Ms. Bittner. What were the amounts that will be funding the museum and library in 2023?
Total, it's the 8,700 you see here. And if you just give me one moment. This will be my laggy with the library is 3,550 and the historical society is 5,160.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, can you repeat those numbers again?
Did I say the wrong way around? The library is an extra 3,550 and the historical society, the museum, is 5,160.
Okay, through to Ms. Bittner, what are the total amounts for each one of those organizations?
The library is requesting 344,000. And the museum is requesting 263,160.
Okay,
That is our last departmental slide. So we sort of circle back now. Chris, are there any other questions that have come up that you thought about for any of the other departments, any specifically, before we kind of move on to more generalization slides, or general slides? You can always circle back as well. Not a one chance question.
any other questions, council?
I'll hold off on this afternoon.
Ms. Bittner, or actually to Mr. Beck, we had an increase of staffing in this area. Can you please give us an overview of why that staffing is required?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through council, yeah, I think the one need that we identified in our department is we probably haven't kept pace with the demands on the admin support level in our operations. So out of all the positions we probably could have looked at, we believe we could make the most benefit from additional admin support. Some of the processes are just getting more complex, the more paperwork. We have to do more financial tracking. And the other thing that we're taking on and we're a little leery about is as soon as the multiplex project really starts to take on speed. Right now, we're in a bit of a lull where we're not actually, we're not building anything. So the invoices are not coming in and we're not having to track as much. But even basically, we have no admin support right now. I'm the admin support for that project. So we're a little worried once the multiplex gets on track, we're going to be underwater. And so there are a bunch of processes we feel we could do a lot better with the addition of one admin level person.
Okay, just to follow up on that. So I'm assuming, because I know you guys have regular conversations with our partners at Yellowwood County, they are aware of these staffing, because this is going to impact their budget as well. Because it is a cost share position, right?
That is correct. I think at this time, we haven't approached them about this at this time.
Okay.
But Mr. Mayor, you're correct, and I think it shows up in here as potential cost
Yes,
share,
it does.
portion of it.
Yes, if it is approved, it would be a cost sharing effect.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Byer.
Thanks, through the chair to, I don't know, administration. Regarding the community services admin proposed connective community initiatives for 30,000, you mentioned it was towards our strategic plan and truth and reconciliation. What do you buy with that?
Mr. Beck.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the council. So we've got a bit of a shopping list of initiatives that would have, basically, it's a lot of the items that would have come out of some of the discussion about truth and reconciliation. And all it was an idea list at this point. We probably have to come back and have some discussion about it. It's everything from more staff training, some of the things that CEO Beveridge has indicated she would like for the organization with respect to all of us doing some learning about truth and reconciliation, all the way through to a whole bunch of policy development that we're probably going to have to work on, and even addressing the issue of a flag and things like that. So it's a menu of items that we could be approaching in the next year.
CEO Beveridge.
I think also I just want to supplement that as well, is that this does address like this whole area when it comes to that pillar with the strategic plan, when it comes to the long-term housing strategy and such as well. So we're looking at that as well. So that's a part of that, as far as knowing that internally we just don't have the capacity to. So there may be an opportunity there to get some outside assistance on that as well.
All right, anything else? You guys are taking it way too easy on men today.
I said I'd save it for the afternoon, pack them in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, yeah, we're doing good on time.
Well, let me think.
Oh, boy. All right. What do we got next, Ms. Bittner?
I'm just getting that, jump back to the very beginning.
I think it'll be a 6-3 win for the Flames tonight.
That's why when you brought it up, we were doing protective services. You may need that. So 6-3 will be the other way around.
Okay, so now we're going to circling back to more sort of general information. I know you saw this slide earlier, just a bit of a refresher there on what makes up our base budget. And also the next slides, we have we've summarized down the service changes and budget requests that have taxation impact, the ones that would be funded through taxation, as well as a listing of the ones without a taxation impact. You'll see some more yellow there. In your agenda, you'll see I allocated $100,000 towards that grant. So I just done a slight amendment there to bring that into line with what was actually being requested. So these slides are to just list those areas down for you into one place for council's review. And we can obviously switch back and forth between the slides as required. The very last one we have, just for informational purposes here, is what the impacts of the base budget will have on your sort of tax notices, residential and non-residential aspect, using the current assessment or the assessment rates on the left there. Also what the optionals will do, and the difference between the base and the optionals for those as well. So that's also just there for your information. It's also is in your agenda as well. And that's the actual end of the presentation today. So I sort of open it up for council discussions, and I can go back and forth between any slides that anyone wishes to have on the screen to help.
All right, well, thank you once again, Ms. Bittner, for your tireless efforts. Every time I drive by at nighttime, it seems like you're here. I'm surprised you're not in your pajamas right now, but I really appreciate all your hard work and dedication, as well as the senior mint team and the rest of the staff that put into this, as well as yourself, CEO Beveridge. So council, a lot to unpack there. Do you have any further comments or questions on this? Speaking for myself, yes, over 7% proposed increase here is a lot, but actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be, considering the inflationary pressures and the COVID recovery that we have to do. When you look at the municipal price index, we're actually, if you take the COVID recovery out of there, we're actually not in a bad spot. But we are also using an additional $500,000 from revenue sharing. I guess my question to administration is, historically, that money has been basically used mostly for capital in future years. Are we going to continue to see escalation in taking money from the RSA, or is this going to be kind of the top end amount we're looking at, or do you even have an answer to that question at this point? I think there's certainly arguments to be made that it should be helping to fund some operating, but I'm concerned that we're going to start depleting way too much, and it's going to start impacting our capital program. So I'll hand that over to CEO Beveridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a topic of discussion around the senior leadership team for the last 2 budgets. Absolutely. When we look at what the agreement, the intention of the agreement to enhance the quality of life for the region, it absolutely was used in a different way before. One of the things what we were looking at as far as rather than transfer taxation impact, essentially these are taxes that are outside of our community that are brought in with the calculation that we benefit from the county. The decision to enhance, offset more operational items did not come easily to us. We are looking at having a more formalized approach to this. It's one of the things where we've been challenged as far as what's the right calculation when it comes to this. How much we agree that we don't want to limit the amount of capital items. So we've been discussing as far as what's the right balance, and potentially bringing that forward percentage wise, that essentially we have a X amount is used for reserves and for also X amount for capital, and then also having that offset. One of the things you'll notice for the revenue sharing, it's all from potentially, we believe that it's for mutually beneficial programs and operations. We've been very careful with this. And yes, it's enhanced. However, given the budget that we were faced with, this is the best approach that we could, that we arrived at. So that, essentially it just wasn't done without careful consideration. And we are definitely contemplating a more formalized approach. And this isn't something, I guess one of the things is that we'd like to see is that this approach then gets carried through for no matter who's at the table. So.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we move? We ask the question. Any concerns about any of the optional items? We will be, just remind council in section E, will be the place where we'll formalize any motions to add, delete, make any changes to give clear direction to administration. Councilor Schnarr.
Yes, my only comment is yes, it is a 7%, but I mean, hopefully the public realizes during COVID, we went the other way. So now we have to come back, and as far as the optional stuff, I didn't see anything extreme in there. It was minor options to move forward. So 7% is going to be a shocker for them, but we need to remind them that what we did in the previous years. There's no comments on that.
It would have been, 5% if we actually did the full meal deal last year.
Yeah.
Like one council wanted us to do, so.
Right.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that discussion?
I do, because it was reversed. I was shocked.
Yes, we had a 5% reduction, and we always have to remind ourselves of that at one point, which unfortunately we're paying for now, but it also helped our residents out during that time. Councillor Byron.
Thanks, through the chair to administration. Thanks for bringing this forward. I realize that 7.7 is a shocker, but I'll admit I thought it was going to be a lot more. Where this budget is offering this service level increase / sustainability, be very clear with that, of 12%. because we are taking that 500,000. So I think that's something to realize, that's just the reality of it. As well as in the past 2 years, we have lost $1 million from revenue from the provincial government, 500,000 roughly in operational and 500,000 in capital. And that is really hard to just cut back those programs unless you want to put environmental disasters and creeks, or you have to get that money from somewhere. It doesn't come out of thin air, and every municipality has been challenged with this. And last year, several municipalities had 12% tax increases because they had no options. We've used the option of the RSA to help stabilize that. So I think this is very reasonable in my opinion. Yeah, so those are my thoughts.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Taylor?
Through the mayor, to administration and of course, Ms. Bittner, this is great work, right? This is, and you know, I go through I went through the other night today, all the optionals, and you're looking at, you know, is there anything that's extraordinary or not needed? And I think Councillor Chouinard and Councillor Byers sort of indicated that those considerations that were made are well thought of and added something to our community. And it's and I even look at them as saying, yeah, they're necessary, right? So you know, more decisions to be made, obviously, in the next section of the meeting, but you know, I like the considerations that were made in the optional section, and at no time did I think that, oh, we can cut that out right away. We don't need that. It's to enhance our community and necessary. So I think it was great work, and certainly more decisions and discussion to be had later.
Anybody else provide any comments at this point? All right, so I will call the question. We do have a motion on the floor, which I will remind people, it's just the draft 2023 operating budget be introduced for consideration. All those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion that the meeting move into a closed session pursuant to section 24 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act? Councillor Bevan will make that motion. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right, thank you for that session there. And so we are going to move on to E. So this is a section of the agenda. If any counselors want to put motions on the floor regarding the budget that was proposed, anything that you want to keep or anything you want to add, change, or delete from the budget. So Councilor Pacicci, I think you have an item.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you want me to word it, but I would move that we would entertain hiring summer students to do, well, for public works, for primarily focusing on our roads and tarring. So I'm not sure if that's too detailed or if you want me to simplify that down. Yeah.
Council, let's go to Seal Beveridge for some correction.
Mr. Mayor, I would just wanted to note as we get into this section, one of the things we can do to ensure that you have the full information before you're making the final decision. So you can direct administration to explore bringing forward the costing for adding 2 additional summer students for a particular, just an example in this case, but that way we can bring that back for when we bring this, the budget back. And then we're able to give you the background, just like we would do on a normal, RFP, if you will.
So then my motion will be that I move that we direct administration to bring us back a plan for
The addition of personnel to handle repairing and sealing our roads. Is that okay, or am I still too vague? Actually, I think you're fairly specific.
Yeah.
I would
It's
say.
2 summer students to support the roads program.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said. Yeah, that's awesome.
See, our recycle mayors learning to become a
That
councillor.
seems like, okay.
Mr. Mayor, I do apologize, and that will just help us be able to bring that back to you, and then you're able to make those decisions, and then you can contemplate.
I think it needs to be a priority, so that's why I made that motion.
All right, so council, we have a motion on the floor from Councilor Pacicci that council direct administration provide a plan for the hiring of 2 summer students to support the roads program. And I will open the floor to any questions or comments on that.
Can you lose that 6-1?
We'll see.
Go ahead, vote against it.
Yeah, vote against it. I'll ask for a recorded vote on that.
Okay, I'll do a recorded vote just as funny. Vote against it.
I'm joking, no recorded vote. Councilor Taylor.
Through the mayor to council, I support the motion. If we go back to the survey that was done with the public, and they said they wanted more work done with the road, 68%.
60 was over 70.
Whatever it was. So this is an example of doing that. So not only in addition to the work that's already been done,
So you're right, 60%.
right in the budget. So I support the motion.
Councilor Schnarr.
2 is 2 enough, because how many summer students we normally hire? So there's 2 additional, so it'd be 4. Okay, that's my only question. Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried unanimously. Anybody else want to put any motions on the floor? I will put a motion on the floor to direct administration to bring back costs for dust control on the Wilmore Park access road between the main campground and overflow as a part of the 2023 budget.
So it was on the access road.
The Wilmore Park access road.
Just that, sorry.
Between the main campground and overflow. So I'll just speak to this. I did speak to it briefly before. We've seen a lot of increased usage out there with the addition of the bike park, and it is one of our hidden gems, and it's certainly noticeable the amount of dust as you're driving in there. And with the amount of pedestrian traffic and people biking and kids, I am concerned about the safety. And with Wilmore Park Road now being dust controlled by Yellow County, I think this would be a good addition to close kind of that area to some good driving conditions. So with that, if there's no questions, comments, or concerns, Councilor Moore.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor, what is the distance of that from one point to the other?
I couldn't tell you, Mr. Kitlitz.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think Mr. Fisher just said that means 2.2 kilometer stretch, right? Yeah.
So that's the
That's the entire road.
total road.
That would be the total road.
It's probably a couple hundred meters.
That's a hand.
Through
Go ahead.
the mayor to answer that question for Councilor Moore. It's 2.2 kilometers of total road, and then from the overflow to the main campground area is about 650 meters.
Gonna walk with the dogs.
All right, any other questions? Comments or concerns? I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Any other motions?
Well, if I'm gonna win in unanimous, I can dream one up.
I'll make an additional motion that to direct administration to bring back costs to include a skating oval at the Water Tower Park. All right, and I'll speak to this. This is something that we did during COVID. What did we call that, Steve? What was it called?
Swirly whirly skating loop or something.
Skating loop.
Something squirrel.
The amount of positive feedback we received, and it was only open for a few weeks, and it was really busy, and with the leisure center across the way, I think it's a nice addition to our community at, I would say, probably fairly low cost. And with the other rinks, there's gonna be skating. I don't even know if Glenwood will be open for skating this year, Mr. Beck, because they are revamping that site, right? So I would like to see us having this as a regular feature in our community. Obviously, if we build a new multiplex, I don't know if that space will or will not be available, but it was a highly used space by kids and families, so. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Mr. Mayor, I normally don't question them, just so we totally understand it. Is it your intent that this would be a new annual feature?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not that I would suggest you change your wording, because that's not my place, but just so it's 100% clear to administration, this is a new.
Yes. Do we wanna, would that be clear if I made on an annual basis? Okay.
Just
Exactly what I said. All right, we will call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Is there anything else that we can pass here before Christine gets back in the room?
Yeah, we should always have Saturday council meetings. They're unanimous.
Any other items, changes? Okay. With that, questions for media and public regarding items from this council meeting. Do we have anybody watching online, Steve?
No.
We have 2 on Facebook.
Okay, well, thank you to those that are tuning in on Facebook. We've,
Wow, killed it.
this is the shortest budget meeting they've had, but we'll fill you in afterwards. I will take a motion for adjournment. Councillor Chouinard, all those in favor? Motion carried. Thanks, everyone.